The scream tore through the night, sharp and human, slicing the quiet of Port Orin's foggy streets like a blade. I froze mid-step on the pier, my sketchbook nearly slipping from my hands as the sound echoed off the water. By the time I turned toward the forest, it was gone, swallowed by the wind, but my heart was already pounding like I'd been the one screaming. My name's Kian Pham, a 24-year-old barista and part-time artist who'd moved to this sleepy Washington town 6 months ago, chasing cheap rent and inspiration for my drawings. Port Orin was all damp air, cedar trees, and whispers of old legends. Perfect for my moody sketches, but not for late-night walks when unexplained noises rattled your bones. I adjusted my scarf, glanced at the full moon hanging low like a warning, and told myself it was just a fox or a drunk tourist. Still, my feet hurried toward the safety of the diner where I worked, its neon sign flickering like a beacon. Inside, the smell of coffee and fried onions hit me like a hug. The diner, Rusty's, was a relic. Checkered floors, cracked vinyl booths, and a jukebox that only played Johnny Cash. My coworker, Lena, was wiping down the counter, her blonde ponytail swinging as she hummed. She was the kind of person who could charm a grizzly bear, all sunshine and sharp wit, which made her the perfect buffer for the locals who eyed my city boy vibe with suspicion. "Kian, you look like you saw a ghost," she teased, tossing me a rag. "What's got you spooked?" "Just the wind," I lied, sliding behind the counter. "Or maybe one of those wolf stories you keep telling me about." She laughed, but her eyes flicked to the window, where the forest loomed dark and endless. "Don't joke. Full moon's out. That's when the weird stuff happens." I rolled my eyes, but the scream lingered in my mind. Lena had grown up here, steeped in tales of wolves that weren't just wolves, of eyes glowing in the woods, of people vanishing under moonlight. I didn't buy it. My life was grounded in smudged charcoal and late-night shifts, not fairy tales. But as I poured coffee for a trucker, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was watching from the shadows. That's when he walked in. The door swung open, and the air shifted, like the room itself held its breath. He was tall, broad-shouldered, with a face carved from stone, sharp jaw, high cheekbones, and eyes like polished silver that seemed to see right through you. His leather jacket was worn, his dark hair mussed, and he moved with a predator's grace, every step deliberate. The diner fell quiet, forks pausing midair, as he scanned the room and locked eyes with me. My breath hitched. I'd never seen him before, but something about him felt familiar, like a half-remembered dream. He slid into a booth, and Lena nudged me, whispering, "That's Elias Kane, my fiancé. Don't stare too hard, city boy." I blinked, heat creeping up my neck. "Fiancé? You never mentioned him." She grinned, but it didn't reach her eyes. "He's private. Been gone for a while. Family stuff." I nodded, but my gaze drifted back to Elias. He wasn't eating, just sitting there, fingers drumming on the table, watching me like I was the only person in the room. It wasn't friendly. It wasn't hostile either. It was intense, like he was trying to solve a puzzle I didn't know I was part of. The night dragged on, and I kept stealing glances. Every time I looked, he was already looking back. By closing time, my nerves were frayed, and Lena's chatter about wedding plans only made it worse. She loved Elias. That much was clear, but there was a strain in her voice, like she was convincing herself as much as me. As I locked up, Elias was still outside, leaning against a lamppost, the moonlight casting his shadow long and sharp. "You're Kian, right?" His voice was low, rough like gravel on boots. I nodded, clutching my sketchbook. "Yeah, and you're Lena's fiancé." His lips twitched, not quite a smile. Something like that. He stepped closer, and I swear the air crackled. "You shouldn't be out here alone. Not tonight." I bristled. "I can handle myself." His eyes narrowed, and for a second I thought I saw a flash of gold in them like a wolf's. "Can you?" he murmured, then turned and vanished into the fog. I stood there, heart racing, the scream from earlier echoing in my head. Port Orin wasn't just a sleepy town. Something was brewing, and I just walked right into it. The next morning, I woke to the smell of rain and the memory of Elias's gaze. My tiny apartment above the hardware store was cluttered with sketches, half-finished wolves, moonlit cliffs, and now, embarrassingly, a rough outline of his face. I shoved the sketchbook under my bed and headed to work, determined to shake off the weirdness. Lena was already at the diner, her usual brightness dimmed. Elias was acting strange last night, she admitted, pouring me coffee. He's been distant since he got back. Says it's his family, but I don't know. I wanted to ask more, but customers flooded in, and the day blurred into a haze of orders and small talk. By evening, the full moon was back, bigger and brighter, and the air felt heavy, like a storm was coming. I was sketching behind the counter when Elias walked in again, this time with a purpose. He didn't sit, just leaned against the counter, close enough that I could smell cedar and something wilder, like earth after rain. "Kian," he said, voice low, "we need to talk." I frowned, wiping my hands on my apron. "About what?" "Not here." His eyes flicked to Lena, who was busy with a table. "Meet me at the pier. Midnight." I laughed, nervous. "You're joking, right?" "I'm not sneaking off to meet some guy I barely know." He leaned closer, and I froze. "You want to hear this? It's about you. And what's coming?" Before I could respond, he was gone, leaving me with a racing pulse and a million questions. Lena caught my eye, her expression unreadable. "Be careful with him," she said softly. "He's not what he seems." I didn't know what that meant, but as midnight approached, I found myself at the pier, sketchbook in hand, the moon glaring down like an accusation. Elias was there, waiting, his silhouette sharp against the water. He didn't turn as I approached, but his voice carried over the waves. "You feel it, don't you?" he said. "The pull. The way the world feels wrong tonight." I swallowed, my throat dry. "I don't know what you're talking about." He turned, and his eyes were glowing, not silver, but gold, bright and unnatural. "You will," he said, stepping closer. "Because you're part of this, Kian. You're part of me." My heart stopped. The scream from last night, the legends, the way his presence pulled at something deep inside me. It all crashed together. But I didn't. I couldn't. Not when he looked at me like I was the answer to a question he'd been asking his whole life. The pier creaked under my boots, the sound swallowed by the restless waves below. Elias stood too close, his gold-flecked eyes pinning me in place, and every instinct screamed to back away, but my feet wouldn't move. His words hung in the air like smoke. "You're part of me." What the hell does that mean? I managed, my voice sharper than I felt. My sketchbook was a flimsy shield against my chest, and the moonlight made everything feel too real, too raw. Elias didn't answer right away. He tilted his head, studying me like I was a painting he couldn't quite figure out. "You felt it your whole life, haven't you?" he said finally. "Like you don't belong. Like there's something waiting for you, just out of reach." I wanted to laugh it off, to call him crazy and walk away, but his words hit too close. Growing up in Seattle suburbs, I'd always been the odd one out, the quiet kid with a pencil in hand, sketching wolves and forests I'd never seen, dreaming of places that felt more like home than my own house. I chalked it up to being an artist, to being Vietnamese American in a mostly white neighborhood, to being gay and not quite out. But Elias's voice carried a weight that made those excuses feel paper thin. "I don't know you," I said, stepping back. "And you don't know me, don't I?" He matched my step, closing the distance. "I've seen your sketches, Kian. The wolves, the moon. You're drawing things you shouldn't know about." My stomach dropped. No one knew about those sketches. Not Lena, not my old friends, not even my parents. They were private, locked away in my apartment, a secret even from myself. "How do you?" "Because I feel it too," he cut in, his voice low and urgent. "The pull, the call. It's in your blood, same as mine." I shook my head, my pulse hammering. "You're Lena's fiancé. You shouldn't be saying this stuff to me." His face darkened, and for a moment, he looked almost pained. "Lena's complicated. She's part of my pack, but not like that. Not like us." "Pack." I laughed, but it came out shaky. Were you some kind of cult leader? He didn't smile. Instead, he reached out, his fingers brushing my wrist, and a jolt shot through me, like static but deeper, warmer, alive. I yanked my hand back, but the feeling lingered, buzzing under my skin. You're not human, Kian, he said softly. Not entirely, and neither am I. The words should have sounded ridiculous, but the way he said them, the way his eyes burned, made them feel like truth. I thought of the scream last night, the legends Lena told, the way the forest seemed to watch me. My mouth went dry. You're insane. Am I? He stepped closer, and I caught that scent again, cedar, earth, something wild. Then why are you still here? Why aren't you running? I didn't have an answer. The moon was too bright, the air too heavy, and Elias was too close. Before I could speak, a low growl rumbled from the trees behind us, and my blood ran cold. Elias stiffened, his head snapping toward the sound. Stay behind me, he ordered, his voice sharp now, all trace of softness gone. I didn't argue. The growl came again, closer, and then a shape emerged from the fog. A wolf, massive, its fur black as the night, its eyes glowing the same gold as Elias's. It bared its teeth, and I stumbled back, my sketchbook hitting the pier with a thud. Elias, I started, but he was already moving, placing himself between me and the wolf. His shoulders tensed, and I swear I saw his hands flex, his nails lengthening for a split second before he clenched them into fists. Back off, Caleb, Elias snarled, and the wolf froze, its ears twitching. He's not a threat. The wolf, Caleb, let out a low huff, then melted back into the trees, leaving only silence. My legs felt like jelly, but Elias turned to me, his expression unreadable. What the hell was that? I demanded, my voice shaking. Caleb, he's protective, doesn't trust outsiders. Elias's jaw tightened. He sensed you, same as I did. Sensed me. I was shouting now, my fear boiling into anger. What am I, some kind of beacon? What's going on, Elias? He hesitated, then grabbed my arm, not hard but firm enough to keep me from bolting. You're one of us, Kian. A wolf. Dormant, maybe, but it's there. I felt it the moment I saw you. I stared at him, my mind reeling. Wolves. Packs. This was the stuff of Lena's stories, not reality. But the wolf in the woods, the scream, the way Elias's touch set my skin on fire. It all screamed something was real, and I was in deep. I need to go, I said, pulling free. This is too much. Kian, wait. He reached for me, but I was already backing away, grabbing my sketchbook from the pier. You can't run from this. It's who you are. I'm a barista, not a damn werewolf. I snapped, turning toward town. But as I walked, the moon seemed to follow, its light cold and relentless, and Elias's words burned in my chest. The next day, I called in sick. I couldn't face Lena, not after what Elias said about her, about me, about us. My apartment became a fortress, curtains drawn, sketchbook open, pencil scratching furiously. I drew the wolf from last night, its eyes, its teeth. I drew Elias, his face half human, half something else. Each stroke felt like a confession, like I was admitting something I wasn't ready to face. By noon, someone knocked. I ignored it, but the door creaked open. Lena, using the spare key I'd given her for emergencies. She looked tired, her usual spark dimmed. You okay? She asked, sitting on my couch. You bailed on me today. I didn't meet her eyes, just needed a day. She glanced at my sketchbook, her brow furrowing. Kian, what happened last night? After Elias left, you looked like you'd seen a ghost. I wanted to tell her everything. The wolf, Elias's words, the way my skin hummed when he touched me. But how could I? She was his fiancé, or so I'd thought. Instead, I said, he's intense. She laughed, but it was hollow. Yeah, that's Elias. He's got this way of pulling you in, making you feel like you're the only one in the world. She paused, her fingers twisting together. But he's not mine. Not really. Our families, they arranged it. Tradition, you know. My heart skipped. Arrange? She nodded, staring at the floor. It's complicated. His family, my family, they're tied to this town, to the woods, to things you wouldn't believe. I swallowed, thinking of the wolf. Try me. She looked at me then, her eyes searching. You've felt it, haven't you? The way the forest calls. The way Elias looks at you. I froze. What are you saying? I'm saying be careful, Kian. He's not just a guy. And you're not just a barista. She stood, her voice soft but firm. If he's talking to you, it's for a reason. Don't trust him too easily. She left, and I sat there, my sketchbook open to a drawing of Elias's eyes, gold, glowing, undeniable. I wanted to believe she was wrong, that this was all a mistake. But deep down I knew it wasn't. The moon was calling, and I was running out of reasons to ignore it. The forest was louder at night, a symphony of rustling leaves and distant howls that made my skin prickle. I shouldn't have been out here, not after Lena's warning, not after the wolf on the pier. But my apartment felt like a cage, and Elias's words, "You're one of us," were claws in my mind, pulling me toward the woods. I'd grab my sketchbook and a flashlight, telling myself I just needed air, but my feet carry me past the town limits, into the shadowed trails behind Port Orin. The full moon was still high, its light filtering through the pines, casting jagged patterns on the ground. I stopped at a clearing, my breath fogging in the cold, and opened my sketchbook. I didn't know what I was looking for, but drawing always helped me think. My pencil traced the outline of a wolf, its eyes too human, too much like Elias's. A twig snapped behind me. I spun, flashlight beam slicing through the dark, and there he was, Elias, stepping into the clearing like he'd been summoned. His jacket was gone, his flannel shirt rolled up to reveal forearms corded with muscle. His eyes caught the moonlight, gold and unyielding. "You shouldn't be here," he said, but there was no anger in his voice, only a quiet urgency. "Neither should you." I shot back, clutching my sketchbook. "What do you want from me, Elias? Why can't you just leave me alone?" He stepped closer, and I didn't back away this time. "Because I can't," he said, his voice rough. "I've tried, but every time I'm near you, it's like," he trailed off, his jaw tight, "like I've been waiting for you my whole life." My heart stuttered. I wanted to call it nonsense, to laugh and walk away, but the air between us hummed, electric and alive. "You're engaged to Lena," I said, the words a weak defense. He shook his head. "It's not what you think. Lena's pack, but she's not my mate. She's never been." He took another step, close enough that I could feel the heat radiating from him. "You are." The word, mate, hit like a punch. It was absurd, straight out of fantasy novel, but the way he said it, the way his eyes burned, made it feel real. My flashlight slipped from my hand, clattering to the ground, and the moonlight flooded the clearing, sharp and bright. "I'm not a wolf," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. "I'm just me." "You're more," he said, and his hand lifted, hesitating before brushing my cheek. His touch was fire, sparking something deep in my chest, something that felt like hunger, like need. "You've always known it. The dreams, the sketches, the way you feel when the moon's full." I wanted to deny it, but my dreams had always been vivid, running through forests, teeth bared, the wind in my fur. I thought they were just my imagination, an artist's escape. But now, standing here with Elias, I wasn't so sure. A low growl broke the moment, and I flinched. Another wolf stepped into the clearing, this one gray with a scarred muzzle, its eyes locked on me. Elias tensed, his hand dropping to my arm, pulling me behind him. "Stay back, Mara," he said, his voice a warning. The wolf, Mara, snarled, her hackles raised, but she didn't advance. "What's her problem?" I whispered, my heart pounding. "She doesn't trust you," Elias said, not taking his eyes off the wolf. "You knew. Unknown. The pack, they're protective." "Pack?" I hissed. "How many of you are there?" He didn't answer, just kept his body between me and Mara. After a tense moment, she backed off, melting into the trees, but the air still felt heavy, like a storm waiting to break. Elias turned to me, his expression softer now. You need to know the truth, Kian, about who you are, about what's coming. Then tell me, I said, my voice shaking but firm. No more riddles. He nodded, leading me to a fallen log. We sat, the moonlight casting long shadows, and he began to talk. He told me about the pack, descendants of an ancient bloodline, bound to the moon, protectors of Port Orange secrets. They weren't just wolves. They were shifters caught between human and beast, their lives governed by instinct and loyalty. Elias was their alpha, chosen not by choice, but by blood, and Lena was part of the pack, her engagement to tradition to strengthen ties, not a bond of love. And me, I asked, my throat tight. Where do I fit in? He looked at me, his eyes raw. You're my mate, Kian, the one I'm meant to be with. I felt it the moment I saw you, but I didn't know until I got closer. Your scent, your presence. It's like a song I can't stop hearing. I laughed, the sound brittle. You sound like a romance novel. I'm supposed to believe I'm your soulmate or something? Not believe, he said. Feel. He took my hand, pressing it to his chest, where his heart beat strong and steady. You feel it too. I know you do. I wanted to pull away, to run back to my normal life, but his touch anchored me. My dreams, my sketches, the scream in the night, it all pointed to this, to him. But fear clawed at me, fear of what it meant, of what I'd have to give up. Before I could speak, a howl split the air, long and mournful. Elias's head snapped up, his body tensing. We need to go, he said, pulling me to my feet. Now, what's happening? I asked, stumbling after him. The pack, he said, his voice grim. They're hunting, and they're not happy about you. We ran, the forest blurring around us, the moonlight chasing our steps. My heart pounded, not just from fear, but from something deeper, something that felt like it was waking up. Elias's hand was tight around mine, and for the first time, I didn't feel alone. Branches scratched my arms as we tore through the forest, Elias's grip on my hand unrelenting. The howls grew louder, closer, a chorus of hunger and anger that made my skin crawl. I wasn't built for this. I was a barista, an artist, not someone who ran from wolves in the dead of night. But Elias's presence was a tether, pulling me forward, his strength a promise that I wouldn't fall. Keep moving, he growled, his voice edged with something feral. His eyes glowed gold, brighter now, and I could see the tension in his jaw, the way his body seemed to hum with power. He wasn't just a man anymore. He was something else, something ancient. We broke into another clearing, this one wider, with a stream cutting through it, its water silver under the moon. Elias stopped, his chest heaving, and I nearly collided with him. What now? I gasped, my lungs burning. He didn't answer, his gaze fixed on the trees. Shadows moved, eyes glinting in the dark. 3 wolves, their fur a mix of gray and black, circling us. My heart slammed against my ribs, and I clutched my sketchbook like it could protect me. Elias, I whispered, my voice barely audible. What do they want? You, he said, his tone grim. They don't trust you. They think you're a threat to the pack. Me? I almost laughed, the absurdity hitting me. I'm nobody. You're not, he said, turning to me. His eyes softened for a moment, but his body stayed taut, ready to spring. You're my mate. That makes you everything. The wolves growled, their teeth bared, and Elias stepped in front of me, his stance wide. Stand down, he commanded, his voice booming, carrying a weight that made the air vibrate. The wolves hesitated, ears flattening, but they didn't back off. One of them, the gray wolf from before, Mara, snarled and lunged. Elias moved faster than I could track, his body a blur as he met her midair, shoving her back with a force that sent her skidding across the dirt. She yelped, but the other 2 wolves advanced, their eyes locked on me. Kian, stay close, Elias said, his voice tight. He grabbed my arm, pulling me toward the stream. They won't cross the water. Not yet. We splashed through the shallow stream, the cold biting my legs, and the wolves paused, their growls echoing. Elias's hand was a vice on mine, and I could feel his pulse fast and steady, like a drumbeat calling to something inside me. On the other side, we stopped, and Elias turned to face the wolves. "This is your alpha speaking," he said, his voice low and dangerous. "Kian is under my protection. Harm him, and you answer to me." The wolves snarled, but didn't cross the stream. After a tense moment, they retreated, their forms melting into the trees. My knees buckled, and I sank to the ground, my sketchbook soggy in my hands. Elias knelt beside me, his hand on my shoulder. "You okay?" "No," I said, my voice shaking. "I'm not okay. I'm being hunted by wolves, and you're telling me I'm some kind of werewolf soulmate. This isn't my life." He didn't argue, just sat there, his presence steady. "I know it's a lot, but you're stronger than you think, Kian. You've always been." I looked at him, his face half lit by the moon, and something shifted in me. His words, his touch, the way he'd protected me. It all felt right, even if it scared me. "Why me?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. "Why now?" "Because the moon chose you," he said, his hand brushing my cheek. And so did I. My breath caught, and for a moment, the world narrowed to just us, the stream, the moonlight, the heat of his touch. I wanted to lean into it, to let go of the fear, but the howls in the distance snapped me back. "We can't stay here," Elias said, pulling me to my feet. "The pack's on edge. They'll come for you again unless we prove you belong." "Prove how?" I asked, dread pooling in my stomach. He hesitated, his eyes searching mine. "You need to shift, to awaken what's inside you." "Shift?" I laughed, the sound hollow. "I don't even know what that means." "I'll help you," he said, his voice soft but firm. "But you have to trust me." Trust him. The words hung between us, heavy and impossible. I barely knew him, yet every part of me felt drawn to him like a tide to the moon. I nodded, not because I was sure, but because I didn't know what else to do. He led me deeper into the forest, to a cave hidden behind a curtain of vines. Inside, it was warm, the air thick with the scent of moss and earth. Elias lit a small fire, the flames casting shadows on the walls, and sat across from me. "Close your eyes," he said. "Feel the moon. It's in you, Kian. It's always been." I did as he asked, my heart pounding. The cave was quiet, but I could hear the forest outside, the pulse of the night. I thought of my dreams, of running on 4 legs, of the wind in my fur. Something stirred in my chest, warm and wild, like a spark catching flame. "Focus on it," Elias murmured, his voice close. "Let out." I tried, but fear clawed at me. What if I couldn't? What if I did? My hand shook, and I opened my eyes, meeting his. "I can't," I said, my voice breaking. I'm not like you." "You are," he said, his hand covering mine. "I'll show you." He stood, stripping off his shirt, and my breath caught at the sight of him. Lean muscle, scars crisscrossing his chest, a story written in flesh. He closed his eyes, and then it happened. His body shimmered, like heat rising from pavement, and in a heartbeat, he was gone. In his place stood a wolf, massive, its fur dark as midnight, its eyes gold and familiar. I scrambled back, my heart racing. Elias. The wolf stepped closer, its head low, and I felt it, not fear but recognition. It was him, undeniable and real. He nudged my hand, his fur warm, and something inside me cracked open. I closed my eyes again, reaching for that spark. It was there, faint but growing, a howl trapped in my chest. I let it rise, let it burn, and for the first time, I felt it, the wolf inside me, waking up. The cave pulsed with the rhythm of my own heartbeat, amplified by the spark I'd felt, a wild, untamed thing clawing its way to the surface. Elias, in his wolf form, stood before me, his golden eyes steady, urging me forward. I wanted to run, to bury this feeling and go back to my safe, predictable life, but the moon's pull was stronger, and Elias's presence was a fire I couldn't escape. I closed my eyes again, focusing on the heat in my chest. It wasn't just a feeling, it was alive, moving like a river breaking through a dam. My skin tingled, my bones ached, and a low growl rumbled in my throat, foreign and raw. I gasped, my hands digging into the dirt, and then it happened, a rush like falling and flying at once. My body stretched, shifted, reformed. When I opened my eyes, the world was sharper, colors vivid, scents overwhelming. I looked down and saw paws, black fur, claws. I was a wolf. Elias's wolf form circled me, his nose brushing my flank, and a surge of connection hit me. Instinct, not thought. I felt him, not just as Elias, but as something deeper, a bond that went beyond words. He let out a soft huff, almost a laugh, and nudged me toward the cave's entrance. The forest was alive in a way I'd never known. Every rustle, every scent, pine, damp earth, the faint tang of blood somewhere distant, sang to me. I followed Elias, my movements clumsy at first, but the wolf in me knew what to do. We ran, the ground soft under my paws, the moonlight guiding us. It was freedom, pure and wild, and for the first time I felt like I belonged. But the joy didn't last. A sharp howl cut through the night, and Elias froze, his ears pricked. I felt it too, a prickle of danger, a scent that wasn't right. Another wolf burst into the clearing, its fur matted, its eyes wild. It wasn't Mara or Caleb, but something about it felt wrong, like it didn't belong to the pack. Elias growled, low and menacing, and the strange wolf lunged. I yelped, stumbling back, but Elias was faster, meeting the attack with bared teeth. They clashed, a blur of fur and fury, and I stood frozen, my new instinct screaming to fight or flee. The rogue wolf snapped at Elias's flank, drawing blood, and something in me snapped. I charged, my body moving before my mind could catch up. My teeth sank into the rogue's shoulder, and it howled, twisting to throw me off. I hit the ground hard, pain shooting through me, but Elias was there, pinning the wolf down. With a final snarl, the rogue broke free and fled, its tail low. Elias shifted back, human again, blood streaking his arm. He knelt beside me, his hand on my fur. "You okay?" he asked, his voice rough. I tried to speak, but only a whine came out. I focused, reaching for my human form, and the shift came slower, painful, like stretching a muscle I'd never used. When I was myself again, I was panting, my clothes torn, my hands shaking. "What was that?" I demanded, my voice hoarse. "A rogue," Elias said, his eyes scanning the trees. "Not pack. They've been showing up more lately, drawn by something. Maybe you." "Me?" I stood, wincing. Why would they care about me? He looked at me, his expression unreadable. "Because you're awakening. Your presence, it's strong, Kian. Stronger than you know." I didn't want to hear it. I just turned into a wolf, fought off another one. And now I was some kind of beacon. It was too much. "I didn't ask for this," I said, my voice breaking. "I just wanted to draw, to live my life." "I know," he said, his hand on my shoulder. "But you're here now, and I'm not letting you face it alone." His words were a lifeline, but they also terrified me. I wasn't just Kian anymore. I was part of something bigger, something dangerous. And Elias, with his steady gaze and bloodied arm, was at the center of it. We made our way back to the cave, the night quieter now, but heavy with tension. Elias bandaged his arm with a strip of his shirt, and I sat against the wall, my sketchbook forgotten somewhere in the forest. "What happens now?" I asked, my voice small. "We train you," he said. "You need to control the shift to understand your strength. The pack won't accept you until you do." "And if they don't?" I asked, thinking of Mara's snarls, Caleb's distrust. "They will," he said, his voice firm. "Because you're mine." The word, mine, sent a shiver through me, not of fear, but of something deeper, something I wasn't ready to name. I looked at him, his face lit by the fire, and saw not just the alpha, not just the wolf, but the man who'd stood between me and danger, who'd seen something in me I couldn't see myself. The next morning, I woke in the cave, Elias asleep beside me, his breathing steady. The fire had died, but the warmth of his presence lingered. I slipped out, needing air, needing space to think. The forest was calm in the daylight, but I could still feel the wolf inside me, restless and awake. Back in town, I avoided the diner, avoiding Lena. I couldn't face her, not after what I'd become, not after what Elias had said about our bond. My apartment felt too small, my sketches too real. I drew anyway, my pencil moving on its own. Elias is a wolf, the rogue, the moon. Each stroke was a question, a fear, a truth. By evening, Lena found me. She knocked, and I let her in, her face pale. "You were with him?" she said, not a question. "In the woods." I nodded, my throat tight. "Lena, don't," she said, her voice soft but sharp. "I know what he thinks you are. His mate." She laughed, bitter. "I should have seen it coming. The way he looked at you." "I didn't ask for this," I said, echoing my words to Elias. "I don't even understand it." She looked at me, her eyes wet. "You will. And when you do, you'll have to choose. Him or yourself." She left, and I stood there, her words a weight I couldn't shake. The moon was rising again, and I knew Elias would come for me. I just didn't know if I was ready to answer its call. The moon hung lower now, its light softer but no less demanding, pulling at the wolf inside me like a tide. I stood on my apartment's tiny balcony, the town below, quiet except for the distant hum of the diner's neon sign. Lena's words echoed in my head, "Him or yourself," and I gripped the railing, my knuckles white. I'd spent my life running from choices like this, hiding behind my sketches, my quiet life. But Elias, the pack, the wolf in my veins, they weren't letting me hide anymore. A knock at the door startled me. I knew it was him before I opened it. Elias stood there, his leather jacket dusted with pine needles, his eyes searching mine. "You didn't come to the cave," he said, his voice low, not accusing but concerned. "I needed to think," I said, stepping aside to let him in. My apartment felt smaller with him in it, his presence filling the space like the forest itself had walked through the door. He glanced at my sketchbook, open on the table, the pages filled with wolves and moonlight. "You're processing," he said, a faint smile tugging at his lips. "That's good." "Good." I laughed, the sound sharp. "I turned into a wolf, Elias. I fought one, and now your pack wants me dead. Nothing about this is good." His smile faded, and he stepped closer, his hand hovering near mine, but not touching. "They don't want you dead. They're scared. You're new, untested. And the rogues, they're making everyone jumpy." I sank onto the couch, my head in my hands. Lena said I have to choose. You or me. Elias knelt in front of me, his eyes level with mine. "She's wrong. It's not about choosing me over yourself. It's about choosing us, who we are together. The pack, the bond, it's not about losing yourself. It's about finding it." His words hit hard, stirring that spark in my chest again. I wanted to believe him, but fear clung to me. Fear of the pack, of the rogues, of the part of me that felt alive when I shifted. "And if I can't?" I asked, my voice barely audible. "What if I'm not strong enough?" "You are," he said, his hand finally closing over mine. The warmth of his touch was a lifeline, grounding me. "I've seen it. The way you fought that rogue. The way you ran with me. You're already stronger than you know." I looked at him, his face close, his breath warm. The pull between us was undeniable, a current I couldn't fight. I leaned forward, my forehead brushing his, and for a moment, it was just us. No pack, no rogues, no moon. Just Kian and Elias, two souls tangled in something bigger than themselves. He kissed me then, soft at first, then deeper, like he was pouring himself into me. It was fire and moonlight, wild and tender, and I kissed him back, my hands gripping his jacket, anchoring myself to him. When we pulled apart, my heart was racing, but I felt steady for the first time in days. "We need to face the pack," he said, his voice husky. "Tonight. They need to see you, to know you're one of us." I nodded, fear and resolve mixing in my chest. Okay, but I'm not doing this alone. You're not, he said, standing and pulling me up with him. Never again. The forest was different tonight, the air thick with anticipation. Elias led me to a clearing deeper than any I'd seen, where the pack waited, a dozen wolves, their eyes glowing in the dark. Mara and Caleb were there, their postures tense, but others stood with them, some curious, some hostile. Lena was there too, human, her arms crossed, her face unreadable. Elias stepped forward, his voice carrying the weight of an alpha. Kian is my mate, he said, his hand on my shoulder. He's awakened. He's fought for us. He's packed. Mara growled, but an older wolf, its fur silvered, stepped forward, silencing her with a look. He's untested, the wolf said, its voice human despite its form. Prove it. Elias looked at me, his eyes steady. Shift. My stomach twisted, but I closed my eyes, reaching for the wolf. It came faster this time, the change smoother, like slipping into a familiar skin. When I opened my eyes, I was a wolf again, my fur black as night, my senses sharp. The pack watched, some growling, some still, but I felt Elias beside me, his presence a steady hum. The silver wolf approached, sniffing me, then nodded. He's one of us, it said, and the tension in the clearing eased, though Mara's eyes still burned. Lena stepped forward, her voice soft. I'm sorry, Kian. I didn't want this for you. I shifted back, human again, and met her gaze. I didn't either, I said, but it's who I am. She nodded, tears in her eyes, and walked away, leaving me with Elias and the pack. The moon was fading now, the night growing lighter, but the bond between us felt stronger, unbreakable. As we left the clearing, Elias's hand found mine, and I knew, whatever came next, rogues, pack, or the pull of the moon, we'd face it together. The dawn broke over Port Orin, painting the sky in soft pinks and golds, a stark contrast to the wild night I'd just lived through. Elias and I walked back to town, our hands brushing, but not quite holding, the weight of the pack's acceptance settling over me like a new skin. I was still Kian, barista, artist, dreamer, but I was also something more, something was only beginning to understand. The wolf inside me was quiet now, sated, but I felt its presence, a steady pulse that matched Elias's beside me. Back in my apartment, I showered, washing away the dirt and blood of the forest, but the memory of his kiss lingered, warm and real. Elias waited on my couch, his presence a comfort I hadn't expected to need. What happens now? I asked, toweling my hair, my sketchbook open on the table between us. We live, he said simply, his eyes soft but fierce. You learn the pack, the forest, the way we balance both worlds. And we figure out why the rogues are coming. I nodded, but my thoughts drifted to Lena. She hadn't spoken to me since the clearing, and her absence was a hole I didn't know how to fill. Lena's hurt, I said, my voice low. She thinks I took something from her. Elias's jaw tightened. She'll come around. She's packed, but she's human. It's complicated for her. I wanted to believe him, but the guilt gnawed at me. Lena had been my friend, my anchor in this strange town, and now she felt like a stranger. I picked up my pencil, sketching her face, her sharp smile, her tired eyes, hoping it would help me understand. That afternoon, I went to the diner, needing normalcy. Lena was there, pouring coffee, her movements mechanical. The other waitresses whispered, their eyes on me, and I realized the town was starting to notice Elias's presence, my absence, the tension. Port Orin was small, and secrets didn't stay buried long. Kin, Lena said, her voice flat as she handed me an apron. You're back. Yeah, I said, tying it on. I'm sorry, Lena. I didn't mean to. Stop, she said, her eyes meeting mine. It's not your fault. I need time. I nodded, my throat tight, and we worked in silence, the diner's hum a fragile shield against the truth. But as the day wore on, I felt the wolf stirring, restless under my skin. The moon was gone, hidden by daylight, but its pull lingered, and I knew I couldn't go back to who I'd been. That night, Elias took me to the pack's meeting place, a cabin hidden deep in the woods, its walls lined with maps and old journals. The pack was there, human now, their faces a mix of wariness and curiosity. Mara glared, but the silver wolf, Elders Elias called her, nodded at me, a sign of trust one hadn't earned yet. "We've got a problem," Elders said, her voice gravelly. "The rogues aren't just strays. They're organized, drawn here by something powerful. We think it's you, Kian." "Me?" I looked at Elias, my heart racing. "I didn't do anything." "You're awakening," Elders said. "It's like a signal calling them. You're strong, stronger than most new wolves. And with Elias as your mate, it's amplified." I felt sick. I wanted to belong, but not like this, not as a magnet for danger. Elias's hand found mine, steadying me. "We'll stop them," he said, his voice firm. "Together." The pack planned, mapping rogue sightings, setting patrols. I listened, my mind half on Lena, half on the wolf inside me. When the meeting ended, Elias pulled me aside, his hand warm on my arm. "You're not alone in this," he said. "I'm here. Always." I looked at him, his face lit by the cabin's lanterns, and felt the bond between us, stronger now, a thread that tied us to the pack, to the forest, to each other. "I'm scared," I admitted, my voice soft. "I know," he said, pulling me close. "But you're not running. That's what matters." The next week was a blur of training, running as a wolf, learning the pack signals, controlling the shift. Elias was patient, his touch a constant anchor, and slowly I found my place. Mara softened, Caleb nodded at me once, and Elders taught me the pack's history, stories of wolves who'd protected this land for centuries. One night, under a waning moon, I found Lena at the pier, her hair loose, her eyes on the water. I sat beside her, silent, waiting. "I'm not mad at you," she said finally. "I'm mad at everything. The pack, the rules, the way I thought my life would go." "I get it," I said, my voice quiet. "I didn't want this either, at first. But it's part of me now." She looked at me, her smile small but real. "You're good for him, you know. Elias. He's different with you. Happier." I blushed, looking away. "I'm still figuring it out." "You will," she said, standing. "And when you do, I'll be here." "Friends." "Friends," I said, and the weight in my chest lifted just a little. That night, Elias and I stood on the cliff above town, the same one from my dreams. The moon was a sliver now, but its power still hummed in my blood. He took my hand, his thumb tracing my knuckles, and I felt it, the bond, the pack, the future. "You claimed me," I said, half teasing, half serious. "Under the full moon." He laughed, soft and warm. "And you claimed me back." I looked at him, at the town below, at the forest stretching endless and wild. I was still Kian, artist, dreamer, wolf, but I was also his, and he was mine. The rogues were still out there, the pack still wary, but for the first time I wasn't afraid. I found my place, not just in the pack, but in myself. And under the stars, with Elias beside me, I knew we'd face whatever came next, together.